And okay, there's a woman riding a horse. The horse has a saddle on it, and the woman is actually wearing split, looks like a split, like um, a split skirt with some leather riding chaps on her. Okay, okay, it's like northern Spain. Begins with an I, the area. Um, Asking when it is. I think it's like early 1800s. Um, okay, she says her heritage is like Spanish, Italian, Scottish, and Viking. Because where she's from, all of that has been there. Um, Everyone thinks of Spain as one way, but she said people have no idea how much like the war over the past couple of thousand years has caused subcultures to spring up everywhere. Um, and she's riding a horse. Her back is straight and her hand. She's got like she is as proper. And she's got like red hair, red hair that's like all piled up on top of her head. And um, she's riding around the perimeter of her family's property to make sure there's no like bandits or near do wells or whatever. And she actually has archery stuff with her, and like she's calling it a dagger. To me, it looks more like a sword, but she's laughing because she said, no, daggers are for ladies. And it's got like a sharp end. And and she said she has killed men before. That watching the perimeter of your property is a serious matter because there are always people who are homeless and starving or people who are have misfortunes and they will try to take what you have and you must protect what you have because it's not just hers, it's her entire family and her little sub community. And so she is riding the perimeter. And there's this man and he's like waving to her. So she rides closer, but for all she knows, like people are about to jump out at her or something. She never knows. But so she's like extremely wary. And from a distance, she calls out saying, show yourself and your purpose. And he says, I need your help. I'm a traveler and my horse shied and I fell from my horse and I'm hurt. I don't think I can walk. And she says, stand up and let me see. And, you know, and she said, he's got this like sort of wavy, curly, she says, sun dappled brown hair, you know, like with golden highlights. And He's very handsome young man with an attractive physique. So she's like immediately taken with him, but at the same time, the last thing she wants is for a bunch of bandits to jump out on her. So he stands up and she sees that there is a big tear and that there's like blood pouring down his leg. And she can say it's not like dried blood or anything like that. This is like fresh blood. And she says, you stay here. Which way did you see your horse run? Because again, and he points to a direction. So she rides over there, and sure enough, she finds a horse. It's her property. She knows it. And she's like, if I were a horse, where would I run to? And there's this area where there's some water and graze. And she finds the horse and grabs the horse's reins and leads the horse back to the guy. And she says, can you get on your horse? And he said, not unaided. So she gets off her horse and he says, aren't you going to look at my leg? And she said, back at our home. And the whole time though, she's like looking around, like, she's still not 100% sure. And he's laughing. He's like, he figures what her issue is. And he's like, you don't have to worry. So she helps him up onto the horse and she's impressed with the fact that he doesn't scream or make any noises of pain when he's obviously in a lot of pain. And then she gets on her horse and she says, follow me. And she goes back to her family's house. And some of the guys come out from barns and stuff like that, and they help him. And she is busy, like, I don't know, getting water to boil, stuff like that. It's interesting. So she has like sisters. There's women. It's like a family collective, like extended family farm and horses and property. But she obviously is like a tomboy because the other women are all doing the woman stuff to help this guy, and she's doing like the kind of stuff that the guys would be doing. So anyway, this guy, there is like, there is some like really bad cut, and I'm asking them, and his knee had been wrenched, but there's nothing out of place or out of alignment. It's just really sore, and what we would now know ligaments and tendons have been like torn or stretched, but nothing, you know. So they help him heal. He actually stays there for a while, and they said, "Where are you going? What are you doing?" And he's like, "Well, he's a like a storyteller. He travels from town to town, and like goes to an inn, and he sets up shop and like tells stories and gives entertainment in exchange for a few pennies or whatever, and and he can write songs and things like that." He's like, and she's like, he's an adventurer and a ne'er-do-well. Like she's got no time for this guy, even though she says he's very pleasing to the eye, and entertaining for the ears. But she said you don't want to give him your heart. So he's like, for around 3 weeks, kind of bed rest there. And in exchange for staying there, he entertains the family, and he helps with like chores like peeling potatoes or things like that he can do hobbling around. He makes himself useful. The woman told me her name is Isabella. Isabella. And everyone calls her EC. And so she does grow very fond of this fellow. And then, but she said no romance happens between them, but she does learn to like relax and enjoy his company. And when it's time for him to be back on his way, she and her brother decide to accompany him to the nearby town where he's going, just to make sure he doesn't like fall off his horse or whatever. And then she and her brother decide they're going to stay the night at the inn. So they get to see him, like they get to see this guy like be himself in his world and his turf. And she said it was this most amazing night because she saw this man out of his native element. And he was pleasant and he was nice and he was useful. There was nothing offensive about him. But when he was in his element, as soon as they got to the inn and they had to help him off his horse, as soon as his feet touched the ground and he saw and the horses were taken to the stables and he saw the door of the inn, she said something in him straightened up the way she felt straight when she was like riding the perimeter of her farm, of her land. And she saw him walk forward. She said he had to use a stick because his knee was still pretty bad. He walked forward and he went in, and she was wondering how on earth is he going to con this place into letting him do his thing. But as soon as he walked in, his presence lit the place up. She got to watch this happen. And like everyone looked up and they were like, oh, let's just like suddenly it was like he brought in this energy that made everyone anticipate excitement. And he went up to the innkeeper and he said who he was. He had his little patter he did, and they were like, yes, you can set up a place over there and near the fire pit. And he did. And she said he was so smart because while he was getting everything set up for his work, and he had like a lute or something, some kind of thing, and he pulled out these like juggling balls, and while he was pulling things out, he was basically doing a show for them without them realizing he was doing a show. Like he's like, oh, what do I have in here? What do I have in here? And he's pretending like there's no one else around, and he's just like chatting to himself. But he's pulling things out like, oh, should I go like, oh. And then he picks up a dagger, and she said, not like her dagger. This is like, and he's like, oh, what about this? And so he's got like several balls and a dagger, and then he's like, grabs something, and he's like, oh, should I? Oh, okay. And just like muttering to himself and putting it down, like, okay, what else do I have in here? And by the time he was done, like getting himself set up, his little bowl that he had for pennies was already like filling up, and there were all these people sitting there like getting ready. She said she'd never seen anything like it. His ability to get everyone, to mesmerize everyone just by being. And she never saw that man again. The next morning when she and her brother awoke, that guy was already off, gone to his next wherever. And she and her brother went back and they told stories to the family about everything. And the family like, wow, I wish we'd asked him to juggle, And she said this was like a singular moment of her entire life that stood out. Like there was her entire lifeline with everything. And then this one thing stood out because this guy just was magical. And he brought magic wherever he went. He was a good guy who, as far as she knew, never hurt anyone, or that, and that kind of gave him this like Teflon presence where no one wanted to hurt him. I mean, she said, just imagine someone go to hurt him, and he just like smile at them, turn on the charm, and the next thing you know, they're charmed and asking what they can do to help him. But because he didn't take advantage of this, he just used it as part of his persona. She said there was a little part of her for the rest of her life that kind of waited for him to come back. Um, but she believed that that was that way for everyone who met him. That he didn't have any big impact on anyone's life, but he did create an impact that wherever he went, an energy of beings, almost like a mandala of energy, if you would, of just having been touched by him and wondering if this will ever happen again. And because of this, she knew that magic exists in the world. And for the first time, she wished for something above and beyond what she had. But she didn't know what to do with that wish. So she just made it something special that she could sort of reminisce on when she wanted. But she said for her, this was just like a tiny moment in her life. And the reason she shared this story with you is because she doesn't see you juggling, but she does see that some of that magic that was in that fellow, in this life, you contracted for that same sort of magic to be in you. And that's not like a normal element to have in yourself when you're in your lives. So she thinks that sometimes it may feel a little uncomfortable inside you to embrace this element of yourself, but this is an element of you in this life. And that it's something that you should embrace with yourself. So, wow. Okay. That's like the first time I've had a past life tell the story of another person. So that makes me think that this is something a little new for you, or one of your past lives who was like this would have brought it forward. So you are breaking boundaries within yourself as well. You know how you feel when everything's flowing and you just feel like complete within yourself? That's supposed to be your goal feeling for like 24/7, pretty much. And that's like for your life to come into harmony. That's what they want. You know, your past lives, your higher self. They want you to, and they said it's going to happen so fast that you won't even like suddenly you'll be like, when was a time when I ever had like self-judgment or anything? Like suddenly you will be, you will not have like any kind of self-judgment whatsoever. And when you see others behaving in ways that normally you would value as positive or negative, you'll realize they're just having their experience. And you'll not necessarily have an emotional reaction to what they're doing most of the time. I said everyone's got their triggers that hit them, but then when you do have triggers where you like have an emotional response, you're like, wow, where did that come from? And you know, what is the point of origin of this, right? But they're saying you will get this point where it's almost like you know, when you do mindfulness meditation, where you're just in a state of resonant peace within yourself. And that's like the evolution you're starting now at this stage of your life. Okay. Does that make any sense to you?
Like what specifically?
About how it's time for you to just be like, sort of like that guy was, just like flowing with natural energy and feeling peaceful within yourself.
Yeah. But I mean, I wouldn't know what that looks like. You know?
It will just look like you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just look like you. Yeah. They're saying you don't need to learn juggling, but um, you're getting a lot of encouragement with just opening yourself up with your future career potential. Um, and they're saying the work you're doing in the past is like going to be useful for the work you're doing in the future in like skills developed, lessons learned, stuff like that. But the work you're going to do in the future is not the same as what you did in the past. And I mean, told you were on your path. You're doing great. Um, just, keep a lot of faith in yourself. Allow yourself to dream about your desires, what you want, and then just let yourself energetically connect to that while you're going forward with the actions of what to do to make it happen. Your energetic connection will not be with the to-do list or the things you're doing, but keeping it with the vision of the future, the vision of your goals. I have no idea what they're doing out there.